I would like to introduce our prestigious guest for today, Mr. Ron Berger. Ron Berger is an acclaimed senior advisor at EL Education and a professor at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. He is an internationally recognized keynote speaker who aims to inspire a commitment to quality, character, and citizenship in students. Mr. Berger has authored several best-selling education books. He received the Autodesk Foundation National Teacher of the Year Award. He has been a public school teacher and master carpenter in rural Massachusetts for over 25 years. We have with us our two facilitators today, Mrs. Raum Saleem and Mrs. Hina Saeed. Mrs. Raum Saleem is Manager Professional Development and School Improvement at Beacon House Head Office, Lahore. She has a diverse work experience of over 22 years. Raum is an accredited program leader from Cambridge International, UK. Her expertise includes teaching and learning, curriculum development, school improvement, and project-based learning. She completed a professional development course from Harvard Graduate School of Education and is currently enrolled in postgraduate certificates in education with University College Lahore. Raum shares passion for music and singing. Hina Saeed is a manager, professional development and school improvement at Beacon House Head Office. She is a seasoned academic practitioner with experience of almost 2 decades. She has a postgraduate certificate in personal education from Margin University, UK, and diploma in teaching with digital technology from Cambridge International, UK. She is an accredited program leader for Cambridge International University. She has expertise in teaching pedagogies, curriculum, and school operations and improvement. She advocates inclusive education, the power of student-driven learning, and impact of feedback on students' motivation and behavior. Over to the facilitators now.
Yes, please. Ron, can you hear me? This is Raum.
I can.
Yes. So
Raum,
Ron,
thank you. I can hear you, but the audio on my end is moving in and out. So I hope my
it's all
audio
right.
will
We
be
can hear you clearly. So you can start with the
great.
presentation. Yes, we are already here.
Great. Thank you so much, Raum, for inviting me to present. I am so sorry I'm not with you in person. If we were in person, I could meet you all and I wouldn't worry about technology. The audio has been going in and out for me as I've been listening to introductions. And so I hope my audio and my slides and videos will be stable and work for you all.
It's
I
working
am
just
honored to
fine.
be with you.
It's working just fine, Ron.
Great. Thank you, Raum.
I must tell you that the theme of the SOT this year is Guardians of the Future. And you must know that the Guardians of Future are with us.
Let's go right to the next slide then, Raum. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so I've been in education for 47 years, and my passion in education is really this, that when our students are done with school, it will no longer be test scores that are the determinant of their success in life. Their success in life will really be determined by 2 things, by the kind of human beings they are and the quality of work that they do. And it really doesn't matter what work they go into. It doesn't matter what kind of career or parenting role they're in or whatever they do in the world. Who they are as a person and the quality of what they do is how they will be judged and whether they will be successful. And so it sounds silly, but I think we need to shift schools to focus more on assessing what are the quality of students we're creating, what's the quality of work that they're doing, not just their scores on exams and assessments. Next slide, please. So I'll tell you a little bit about my organization. I work with a nonprofit organization based in the US. We are called Expeditionary Learning Outward Bound, and our new name, a shortened version of that, is EL Education. And EL started 30 years ago in a marriage of 2 organizations, the Harvard Graduate School of Education, where I teach, and Outward Bound. And you may know Outward Bound is an international organization that takes adults and children into the wilderness, but not to teach wilderness skills, to teach teamwork and character and service, and to build an ethic of service and compassion. My organization has a different view of student achievement. In most places, people view student achievement as just exam scores, and particularly exam scores in literacy and in mathematics. We say student achievement should be three-dimensional. It should be the mastery of knowledge and skills students have, and also their character, and also their high-quality work. Next slide, please. So when I say mastery of knowledge and skills, I don't just mean exam scores. I mean kids who are great readers and writers and users of mathematics, great scientists and historians and artists. So much deeper than just let's get good scores, but let's build great scholars. Next slide, please. When I say character, I mean both performance character, kids' ability to be organized and show up on time and be efficient and have high standards for who they are, but also compassion and integrity and responsibility and respect for others, which is just as important as any of the academics. And next, craftsmanship, high quality student work, which is a particular passion of mine. Kids who have highest standards for what they create and also have a work ethic of really liking to do work. Next slide, please. When I say character, what do I mean by character? We actually have a framework in our organization of what we mean when we say character. And in the center of that framework is this notion of making the world a better place, contributing to a better world. We want effective learners who are ethical people who contribute to a better world. And so kids in our schools should be getting smart to do good for the world, to make their families, their communities, their countries a better place and the world a better place. Next slide, please. And in the other two areas, we also have frameworks for what we call deeper instruction, instruction for deeper learning, and also for what we mean when we say high quality student work, the attributes of high quality student work. Some of you may recognize Austin's butterfly on that slide, which is the way most people know me in the world, is my obsession with beautiful student work and this particular piece of work by Austin that went through 6 drafts to become a really well done piece of work. Next slide, please. So let me just start out with an example of a beautiful piece of student work, the kind of work that I see from places all over the world that inspires me about students' ability to contribute as citizens and do something that matters and how that motivates them to do their best work. So these are 10-year-olds in a state in the United States called Idaho. And these students were paired with an animal shelter where dogs and cats and other animals that were abandoned or unwanted were taken in. And each student was paired with a particular animal, a particular dog or cat. They learned the life story of that animal, and they did a portrait of that animal, and they wrote a poem about the life of that animal. And the portraits and the poems are incredibly well done because the students knew that the lives of these animals were dependent on them creating an argument for why people should adopt them. And so they made posters with these animals, posters with the pictures of the animals and with poems about the animals. And then these animals were posted all around the town, all around the city, in laundromats and in grocery stores and in government centers. And people read these poems and they looked at these drawings of animals. Next slide, please. And I don't know how long you'd want to look at this slide of Bella without thinking, I want to adopt that dog. But the school started getting calls that these animals were getting adopted because of the posters that kids had made. And so the many drafts of writing and the many drafts of drawing that kids did not only paid off, but it paid off in saving the lives of these animals and making a big difference in the world. So when I say beautiful work, I don't just mean beautiful visual work. I mean beautiful mathematical work. Next slide, please. And beautiful work in every dimension. So beautiful can be aesthetically beautiful, but can also be historically beautiful. Next slide. Mathematically beautiful, um, economically beautiful. These are slides, and we can just go through these slides every few seconds. These are slides
Yes,
of
why
work
not?
I've collected over 40 years of work done by students in areas of science, in areas of architecture and construction, in areas of physics, in areas of arts, in all kinds of domains where kids thought, let's take the academic learning we're doing and put it toward good in the world, put it towards creating books, creating blueprints, creating scientific reports, creating movements that can make a difference in the world. And I think when we connect the disciplinary learning we're doing with students to an ability to contribute, to create a field guide that people will use in the real world, everything changes about the motivation that kids have because they think, let's make a difference. Let's clean up our neighborhoods. Let's build something that will help our community. Let's use our academic skills to make this community a better place, to make the world a better place. Next slide, please. So these are just slides, and we can just, these particular slides, we can just move through, are just examples of kids working with their hands, working with their minds, working with their research skills to create artifacts that become important and contribute in some way to their community and make a difference in the world. We have an online collection of these models of excellence, and I'm hoping that Beacon House and other schools in Pakistan will send us work done by their students, from young students all the way up to
Why
the
not?
oldest student.
Sure,
We
Ron.
would love to collect beautiful work from Pakistan. We have work from India in the collection right now. I don't think we yet have work from Pakistan, so we really could use it. And the reason I'm showing all these images is I don't want this just to be my words. I want people to leave with a vision of, oh yeah, students can do amazing things. Students can do beautiful work. Students can make a difference in the world. So this is my last slide to go through quickly. And now I would like to take a little bit more time to do a little bit of a case study with you. So let's take on the next slide. The next slide brings us to a case study. This is a elementary school in Boston, Massachusetts, which is the state in the United States where I happen to live. And this school, I want to do a case study of a project that second graders took on in this school. So next slide, please. Second graders took on a study of snakes of the world, and each student researched a particular snake that lived somewhere in the world and created a page for this field guide. The students decided they wanted to send this field guide for free to everyone in the world, and they realized then we can't do a printed field guide. So they created an ebook. So students did their research and did their drawings for this ebook. And then they wrote a day in the life of these snakes. So it's like a field guide, but it's the story of the lives of these snakes. And each one of these is incredibly done for 7-year-old students. But the power of it is that they knew they were creating a free resource for the world. And so they went through draft after draft to create something of real power. I will later show you, and let's pause on this slide, not move through it. I will later show you a video of what it looked like when kids were creating that work. But before we move on, I want to point out that this is not a trade-off between students doing beautiful work and students succeeding on traditional academic measures. So this school was part of a cohort of 100 schools, all serving low-income students, students in America that were the least well-served and had the least resources. And all of these 100 schools were tested in literacy and mathematics. Of those 100 schools, the students in this classroom that produced this field guide, this incredible field guide of snakes around the world, scored #1 in English language arts in their literacy work of any school in the cohort. And so not only did the kids not suffer from having the ability to do something deeply and beautifully, but their motivation for school, their motivation for learning how to write well and research well and read well was so much greater than in other schools that these students excelled on these tests without their whole curriculum being a test prep curriculum. Because, as everyone in Beacon House would know, projects can really engage kids' mind and heart in a way that makes them practice harder and work harder. So I will, when we bring you into that classroom later on a video format, you'll be able to see, okay, this is what it really looks like there.
Sure, Ron.
Now, to move on to a different case study, next slide, please. I want to take a case study of a high school. This is a high school also in my state. It is called the Springfield Renaissance School, and it's in a city that is a fairly low-income city. This was a city that's near me that was an industrial city 100 years ago, but the industry has pretty much left. So it's a city with lots of unemployment and lots of poverty. Next slide, please. In this city, there are 6 public high schools, and in the US, that means serving students from grades 9 to 12, like 15 to 18, or sometimes 6 or 7 to 12, so students from age 12 to 18. Of those 6 public high schools, 5 of them are not doing well. 5 of them only graduate 60% of their students, which means 40% of their students are dropping out before they can graduate. The one outlier on that is the school that we helped to open, the Springfield Renaissance School. It has 700 students. 84% of them are what we in the United States would say students of color, Black students, Latinx students. 96% of those students are graduating on time every year, and every single student has been accepted into university since the school opened. So let me say that again. For 15 consecutive years, every single student from this high school has gotten into university, which is unbelievable for the United States. And these students are what we would call first-generation students, meaning their parents didn't go to college or university, but they did. Why did that happen? There's a number of reasons. One is students meet every day in advisory groups called crews, where they support each other's social and emotional health and academic health. Next slide, please. Another reason is that there's great relationships in the school, and I'm sure everyone in this audience understands the importance of relationships, where kids feel known, where every kid from every background feels like he or she or they belong in that setting, and where teachers know them as people. Next slide, please. But it's also true that they had the opportunity to do beautiful work and work that contributed to a better world. So one of the projects that 9th graders, which means 14, 15-year-olds in the United States, did was that they were trained by city engineers to do an energy analysis of city buildings. Next slide. So these 9th graders, after being trained by city engineers, went into schools throughout the city and checked things like the HVAC systems and the heating systems and the appliances and the insulations and the windows, and figured out where are these buildings losing energy, where are they wasting energy, and then they created a report for the city about how we could retrofit the city schools by investing $156,000 US dollars to make these schools more energy efficient, which would help save taxpayer money and also help save the environment. The city invested that money, and within 1 year, they recouped $200,000, I think, of money. And every year now they're saving money. The city came back to those high school students and said, we want you to become our energy auditors for buildings throughout the city. And we've invested $250,000 US dollars to retrofit buildings that you tell us are needed. So these students, while still age 15, were working as professional engineers for the city as part of their learning. It's no wonder all of those kids went to college. They were already doing college level work when they were only 15. So I want to just share with you, I work for this nonprofit, EL Education. This is our website, eleducation.org. And because we're a nonprofit, everything we produce is free and open to the world. Next slide, please. So we have many things on the website that you can get if they're useful to you. We have many books. We have about a dozen books. Those are the only thing we can't offer for free because they're physical books and published. Next slide, please. But we also have more than 400 videos. I'll show a few of those to you today that
Yes,
are
please.
free and downloadable and usable. We also have a literacy curriculum for kindergarten through 8th grade students that's used by 500,000 students right now in the United States. It's also free and downloadable from our website. And we have Models of Excellence, which is this collection of hundreds and hundreds of projects from all over the world that you can also access and download for free. And we hope many of you in Pakistan will send us beautiful student work for this website.
Yes, sure, Ron.
And that, if you want to take a photograph of that or save it, those are access to all of our free resources.
Thank you so much.
Ram,
Yes,
let's
please.
end the slideshow there.
All right.
And I have gone on for quite a bit without giving people time to think and talk.
It's all right.
So
It was lovely listening to you, Ron. So what do you say? We play
Let's
the
take
video?
5 minutes.
Okay, sure.
Let's take 5 minutes and have people have a chance to meet in small groups from their seats. People turn around in their seats and
So
get
they
in.
are in an
Have a
auditorium
conversation
second.
with a few other people. So
Yes.
I'll let you lead that. What's
They are
connecting
actually
with you?
in an auditorium setting, and we have already given them the protocols to be in trios, so they can discuss in trios.
Excellent. Let's take 5 minutes just to discuss what's resonant so far, what questions have come up for you.
Can we have the camera towards the audiences? And audience, you can now discuss in trios what you've seen and what Ron has talked about. So Ron, how do you want them to connect?
He wants to come
Yes.
up with a question.
Yes.
So
If you can
let's
come
just
up
take a
with
few minutes.
whatever you want them to discuss, that will be great.
So any question that
think-
you want to place, Ron, right now for the audience?
Yes, I'm just interested on what questions come up for people, what resonates for people in their own practice and work. What do they connect with? What are they skeptical about? So just from those first few things, what connects to your practice and your work from what I've shared so far?
Sure. Just give them a couple of minutes. Thank you. So anyone who wants to share, please raise your hand and I'll bring the mic to you. Yes, please. Okay. Yes, Ron, we have a question or we have a statement. Responses,
Great.
yes, please. Who would like to go?
Ron, I would like to share that what you shared earlier in your second slide, I would go with that it doesn't matter what grades did you get from a college or at the end of your education. However, it is more of the person or the capabilities or the qualities of as a person that you have that matters most. And second thing that we picked was the peer-to-peer interaction rather, and along with that staff and teachers and student interaction and development of that relationship that matters the most.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ron, in one of your slides, I just noticed one thing. The students, they started communicating with each other. That increases their number from school to graduation. This means communication, trust, and meeting each other regularly was one of the impact in increasing the number of their admission or their choices for the university.
Okay, great. We have another response from this side.
Ron, thank you so much. I think it's been just beautiful just listening to you speak, because this is what true education is all about. It's developing the child and making them productive, you know. It's not about just completing the curriculum. It's making them productive and useful citizens of society. And doing that as a team and then actually seeing things happening, I think nothing better can happen. And if we can have this happening in every school, the world will definitely be a better place.
Okay.
Hi, Ron.
Farah, yeah.
Yes. Thank you for the presentation. I had a question. You mentioned that the students used to meet in groups. Were they given any training on how to provide each other support or any structure on how to go about that?
Very good question.
Great. So let me respond to that question. Some people would call it an advisory structure. At the elementary level with young kids, it's usually every kid in the class sitting in a circle, because in the US, there's usually one teacher for all those young kids, kids that are 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. So they all 25 kids will sit in a circle every morning, and they learn how to share their feelings. They learn how to talk respectfully about each other and ask questions and support each other. And they also talk about what they're doing well with and what they're struggling with as a person and also academically. At the older level, when kids are going from teacher to teacher, we have the structure called crew is an advisory structure that meets every day in small groups. So one of the teachers is their crew leader. There's about a dozen students in that crew, and they meet every single morning with that crew and discuss how are their home lives going, how is their life going, how are they doing personally and emotionally, and then they also say, this is how I'm doing in my mathematics, this is how I'm doing in my language classes, this is how I'm doing in my science class. And they also hold each other accountable. So if kids are struggling, they all, as a family, lean in and talk about how are we going to help you do better in this. And I think it's not only one of the reasons why so many of them graduate and go to college, but it's the reason why they stay in school and care about school, is that they have a family that they meet with every day that supports them, but also holds them accountable, that their peers were tough on them as well as kind to them. And when kids start slipping and they start falling behind in their work or behind in being a good person, the other kids in their crew will hold them accountable for that and say, you haven't been a good person lately. You haven't been kind to us. You haven't been kind to other people. And it's been a powerful structure for us in shepherding kids to graduation and into college, but also in helping them become good human beings.
So do we
And-
have another?
And Raum,
Yes.
I would love to actually move on to a video now if we could.
Yes, please. Video one?
Yes, we're going to start with video one because
Okay.
I want you to see what it looks like in a classroom when this stuff is
Sure.
happening.
So
It's
can
one
we
thing
have
to hear
video
me
one?
talk about it.
Okay. Sure.
It's one thing to hear me talk about it, but it's really different to see it happening. So the classroom of second grade students, 7-year-olds, who created this field guide to snakes, I wanted you to see what it's looked like when they were creating that. And that this is a video from that classroom.
Yes.
Soon passes a river,
Little
and a
louder,
giant,
please.
starving, scaly crocodile rises out of the green water on its big, short legs and bounds toward her. Crocodiles are her predators.
And around. Well, this is a pretty cool.
When students are feeling excited and empowered by what they are learning, it creates the right conditions for producing really high quality work. And getting really high quality work from every student means they have to go through a process of critique and revision. We began thinking about our scientifically accurate drawings of our snakes by looking at models done by kids from earlier years.
What are some stars we could give about Unis's snake shape? Some compliments, some kind critique. Maxwell.
I like how he wrote the head and the tail where it's supposed to be.
Students worked on one aspect of illustration at a time, starting with their snake shape.
I want you to now think about stairs. What are some stairs, some things that he could work towards in his next draft? Turn and talk.
Yeah, and I think he should make the head, because it kind of looks like it's sagging down a little bit, so it can make it a little bit round.
I wanted students to not only understand how to look carefully like scientists at the work, but also be able to enhance their ability to give critique and feedback by using our rubrics.
Okay, if the target's met, that means that in every single place that the lines are smooth. Do you see some smooth lines? Where do you see some smooth lines? Okay. Do you see smooth lines everywhere? Can you point a few lines where they're not so smooth? Okay, so did she hit the target for that? Okay, so is she getting started?
I've been traveling around the country for the past 10 years with a story called Austin's Butterfly about the power of critique and feedback. And that story has become a phenomenon in a way. It has taken off internationally. Tens of thousands of students and teachers have found it a provocation to create beautiful work. It's not bad, and it is a butterfly, but does it look exactly like this? And people often ask me, what would it look like if that Austin's butterfly process was always there in a classroom? What could a classroom look like? And I'm not sure I've ever seen a classroom that's a better example of that than this classroom.
Would you agree that the size, how wide the We have three things that we always ask kids to do when we're doing a critique. Be kind, be specific, and be helpful. And after the kids practiced, we began the process of going back and critiquing each other's work. And what I find is that in the beginning, kids are really great about being kind.
I like that you made like the tail because I can see in the picture that it goes up.
So at the beginning, we don't see a lot of very helpful or specific feedback. Over time, as kids do this, and we're talking about over several weeks, as they practice, critique, and their drawings improve, you can see that the kids begin to recognize the value of that specific and helpful feedback.
Like right here is like more wider, so one thing I do to get it in proportion, I go like that, and then I go like that, and then I erase the lines, and then I just make it how my fingers were. And the negative space here should be a little bit smaller. And the negative space here could be bigger. So
I also needed to be able to sit with kids individually to help them improve their ability to give critique. So I needed a process in my classroom to give kids more independence in their work.
But some of you yesterday finished a draft and were really hoping to get some critique from peers. For example, Marguerite finished one of her snake shapes. So Marguerite would find her name. This is Marguerite Asian Rock Python. And what Marguerite would do is she would move her name to being ready for a peer critique. Anybody else who's ready for a peer critique would move their name to ready for a peer critique.
I've used the project board with kids for a long time, and that helps them become the co-managers of the critique process. They can see where anyone is in the classroom at any time, and I can see where anyone is in the classroom at any time, and then they can choose a partner to go and do critique with. It's great because it means kids aren't always going to their friends. It's great because they can take more ownership over the critique process themselves. Over time, we focused on other physical features like scales, patterns, and color. And along the way, we worked with different experts who taught the kids specific techniques.
So sometimes we're going to see just plain old circles. Sometimes you see ovals.
yeah.
Ooh, oh my goodness, like perfectly perpendicular diamonds, like that.
And for each new aspect of their illustration, we created a rubric and had opportunities for critique and feedback.
I like how your scales are going to the direction of where the body is. Like something that you can work on, like a stair, is trying to make all the scales the same size. Not like smaller. I had to make them big because you know how it's facing towards Toronto.
Getting kids to do their best work is what learning expeditions are all about. It's not just about doing it when we're doing our high quality artwork. We take the same process, then we can apply it to the way we craft our written stories. Or in our school, we can do the same thing when we think about all the music that's essential in our school. Learning how to do your best work and learning that that happens through a process of critique and revision is very empowering for students. It sets them up for success in any academic or personal venture in the future.
Instead of a triangle. But just make it a little bit bigger, not just that bump. Yeah. Not really bigger. See if I trace it.
Yes, thank you so much, Ron. It's a wonderful video. I would like to ask you a question. So when we when we saw Austin's butterfly back in a professional development course by Jill Akers, she showed us that video, and we were awestruck. You were a celebrity there and then, with all the Beacon House crowd that was there in that professional development course. So I would like to ask you this question, that what happened with the reflection as a teacher, because obviously you were working and that was something that was an experiment for you. So what were your reflections like afterwards?
And I would like to add here too,
Yeah.
that yes, your reflections and what happened to Austin Where is he now? How old is he now? And what career does he
Yes,
have?
please.
I can start by saying I have tried very hard to find Austin. He's in his 20s now. And he moved away after first grade, and we have not been able to find him. But I can tell you, for those of you who might remember the video, the students who appear in that video who are critiquing it, I have followed many of them. So for example, there's a young man in the video named Atak. If you remember the video, he says, he made a lot of progress. He persevered in doing it.
Yeah.
And at one point I asked Atak to come up to the screen, and he says, I don't mean to be mean, but it's just not quite right. The angle is just not quite right. And I said, Atak, come up to the board and show us. And he comes up and he says, it should move out here a little more. So when Atak moved from elementary school into middle school, I followed his career. He did a service project in middle school to redo a playground in his community. When he was in high school, I was so impressed with the work he was doing that I asked him to be the keynote speaker for our EL Education National Conference, which had 1,200 educators. And Atak flew the first time in his life on a plane across the United States to be the keynote speaker for our national conference and talk about how he uses Austin's butterfly as a metaphor for his whole life. That every time he's at a place in his life, in his work and his personal development, he thinks, but I'm only at this draft. I could be at the next draft and the next draft of my life. I'm trying to continually become a better person. And he is in college right now, the first in his family to go to college. So he was a refugee from Sudan. And so it is really a powerful thing for me to think of those kids from the Austin's Butterfly video and the kind of people that they're becoming.
Excellent, Ron. I'm speechless because I can relate to so many things because we have similar kids here as well. And you've done this with one kid and, this is amazing, truly amazing. So we would now want you to move to our next, perhaps, segment of your presentation. Or
yes.
Do you want to show them video 2 or video 1?
Video
2 or video 3?
Yes, I would like Sound to move on to video 2 because I wanted the folks in the audience who work with older students to see what does it look like for high school students to be in this work. So this video is featuring the second school that we did a case study with, which is Springfield Renaissance School, the school where all the kids are getting into college. But this video is from when the school first started, but when it was just starting out as a school. It was a new school for the district. No one believed that these students would ever go to college. And I wanted to show you the project that sort of launched that vision for them. So let's go on to video 2.
Let's play video 2, please.
I'm just proud that I actually was part of the school. Just knowing like all the changes that Renaissance had made in Springfield. We finally have a school in town that changed everything in the city.
these students, this first year at Renaissance was their first time really being asked to do work of high quality for an outside audience.
This project was brought to our attention. We were like, what do they expect us to do with this big pond? Like, we're 15-year-old students. We felt a lot of pressure. They were depending on us to decide if this pond was swimmable or not. It was kind of like empowering, I guess. Like, oh, they're depending on this brand new school. It's its first year. They're depending on us to give them the information that they're looking for.
Each group had a specific section of the pond that we tested. So different groups had different areas of the pond that we were figuring out whether or not the pond was safe to swim in, and that was sort of the ultimate type of responsibility that you can give to a group of students.
We were told this is important, we're doing this for the community, you guys are responsible, and we're going to present it, and some important people were going to come to this assembly, and we were to present it as if it was a real setting, and it was a real setting.
I actually live 5 minutes away from the pond, so I was actually excited to know what were going to be the results, just because as a kid I used to walk around by the area with my mom and always wonder how come that pond was always closed.
It was both the scientific content, because they had to take the state exam at the end of the year, but also as a way to really engage them in the community and to be able to do scientific field work. I felt that that was an important skill that I wanted my students to have. It wasn't just a cool project, it was a cool project based deeply in the standards. We read primary sources, we read secondary sources, we read scientific text. We read the Massachusetts water quality standards and made sense of them. I'm going to read something, I'm going to understand it, I'm going to use that with my field work and my field experiences, and I'm going to make sense out of that and apply it through my writing and show what I know through what I write. And that, to me, is deeply embedded in the Common Core state standards and deeply embedded in what it means to be college and career ready.
It got us ready for the real world, because me personally, I knew that in college deadline was very important, and part of having a career is knowing that someone is going to hold you responsible.
I think that students who are the most ready for college and for careers are students who have a variety of skills that they've learned in high school. And Loon Pond was an example of a project that gave us different skills, whether it's testing water, whether it's writing up the lab reports, editing the lab reports. It gave students different skills that they may not have normally got.
At the end of the day, I was proud. I was proud of myself. I was proud of our class as a whole. It came out really great. We presented it to the mayor of Springfield, and everyone was so impressed with us.
During my undergrad, I had to conduct my own study. And I had to go out there, get approval, and then I had to start. So I had to collect data, do a chart just like we did for this project, and then the final goal was to have the final paper and present it to the whole school. So it's very similar.
Our test results in that first year for the Science MCAS, they were significantly higher than the rest of the city. So whereas people thought, that crazy school, well, all of a sudden that crazy school was getting good results. I ultimately want my students to believe in themselves in a myriad of ways. And one of those ways is to believe that they're capable of whatever it is they'd like to do.
I should be in Hollywood. We should all be in Hollywood. Come on, class of 2010, let's do something.
Okay, that's really great, and it's so nice to see students working on their own, reflecting on their work, and then the community service that they had been doing. So any comments from the audience? Anyone who would like to ask anything or comment on it?
I have the mic with me, yes.
Anything that you would like to contribute?
So thank you very much for this presentation. It is so meaningful, and what I'm getting out of this is that they need to have some meaningful work. So if they think that their part is being acknowledged and they have the power to change, then they'll put the real brain in work. So otherwise, whenever we present, it is just a presentation. So we do that, and I think we have to move forward with putting that work in community and making them believe that whatever they're designing here will bring some benefit to the society, and they can be a part of the society, and they can bring some change in the society. So meaningful work has this power. It is amazing to see. Thank you.
Okay, indeed, contextualization of the work is extremely important for the students. Once they know what they are doing and why they are doing and how they are going to do it, that's where the whole energy comes in. Yeah. Ron, I would like to know whether you would like to go for the next video, because it's, I think we have another 11 minutes,
Yeah.
11,
So
10, 11
if we could
minutes
see
left.
the timer, please. So
Great.
we've got 11 minutes
Yeah.
with you, Ron. Yes, 11 minutes.
Great.
Yeah.
So how would you like to proceed?
How do you want to proceed?
Let's do about 5 minutes of questions, and then I'll share the last video.
So
Sure.
do we have questions, audience,
Or comments.
or comments? Yes. Yes, please.
Farah again.
So Ron, I wanted to ask, how important is the role of the policy maker who, that they're presenting their work to? Because meaningful work is only meaningful if you have the buy-in of the government. So
That's
how?
so right.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's so right. Yes.
Yeah.
It's such an apt question.
So how important is the role? Because I think we have a lot of problems in Pakistan to solve, but it's just who to reach.
I think that's an excellent question, because sometimes we design a project that's not actually going to be able to land in the community because of bureaucracy, because of laws, because of people's interests. So I think the first step is that a teacher involved or a project coordinator or someone from the school has to go out and meet the officials and find out who is ready to take some student help, who is ready to have students go out and interview people in the community, who is ready to go out and have students test things for pollution, who's ready to go out and meet with engineers and do this kind of work. And there's always going to be someone in the city hall, always someone in the administration, always someone in the university who says, I'd be willing to do that. You have to find that person who is your ally in the real world, who actually can say, this is a place where it would work. Let me share one very specific example. We had a school where the students were inspired by this idea, and they decided we should test whether there's pollution in the rivers and streams in our town. And so the teacher went to the water department and said, do you need any help with testing? And the water department person said, no, we don't need any help. We don't need kids doing this. In fact, kids wouldn't know how to do this work. We have a team that does that. And so she said, can I talk to some of your team? Because that guy had no interest in getting help. And then she talked to some of the team, and some of them were interested, some of them were not. It was just silly. What would kids have to offer? But one of the members of the team said, well, to be honest, there's some areas of town where we're not really sure. Like, we put salt on the roads in the winter. It might be leaching into the water. It might be polluting the water. We're not actually sure because we don't have the person power to test it all the time. And she said, oh, what if I had my middle school students, my 12 and 13-year-olds, going to that river all the time and testing it through the winter to see if the salt is leaching into the water? He said, that would actually be amazing for us. And so when she found that person who was willing to actually have the students contribute, the students got trained by him to actually do the testing. They went there all winter. And in the fall, in their next year's town meeting, the cover picture of the town annual report was those students testing the water. And the work that they did actually helped the city to clean up some of that river. So what was beautiful and what's great about your question is it's not always going to happen right away. You can't right away find the person who says, of course, go out and interview the shop owners in our community. Go out and interview the people in our community who do community support. Some of those people will say, kids can't do that kind of work. So you have to search around for the person who believes in you and says, I would be willing to make those connections for you. Let's get started. And then you find that person on the inside in your community who's willing to make the connections to the community people, or train your kids to do interviews, train your kids to test for water or air or soil quality. And then the kids know there's a real contribution we can make here.
So it has to be a combined effort. The students going out and asking, and then the school management helping them out, maybe making connections for them and helping them out for that.
Exactly. And finding experts from a university, from an industry, from the government who said, I'll come in, I'll help you while you're doing your report. I'll critique your report with you. I'll look over your findings. I'll teach you things about how to do this.
Great. Thank you so much, Ron. And whatever we've seen in the videos and what are we discussing here in the hall, it's very much related to the 5 dimensions of the School of Tomorrow conference: the inclusive future, the expressive future, the unknown future, and the balanced future.
Peaceful future.
And a peaceful future, yes. So thank you so much.
And Raum and Hina, I know time is running out, so I'm going to introduce my last video, which is only a 2-minute video.
Yes, please.
Okay, sure.
And that same classroom where students were studying snakes, in their study of snakes, they learned that people don't like snakes, that people kill snakes, that people hate snakes. And in fact, in almost every country of the world, snakes are presented as bad. That in almost every religion and in fables, snakes are always the bad people. And they said, well, but snakes are God's creatures. Snakes have an important place in our ecosystem. We have to educate people that snakes are okay. And so they thought about writing a letter to the editor, but they thought, yeah, but the newspaper probably won't publish it and no one will care. So they thought about doing a piece for television, public interest piece. And then the students decided, what if we created a music video about snakes and about how snakes are valuable, and the music video went viral, and then people all over the world would see it. So because this classroom, as you saw, is dedicated to quality, when they decided to do a music video, they studied music videos, and they got access to a real studio, and they worked with experts, and they created actually a very good music video, and it did go viral, and it was viewed by more than 50,000 people all over the world. They took the Lady Gaga song. Lady Gaga, you may know, is an American performer, and she wrote a song
We
called...
all know.
Oh, great. So you know Lady Gaga. She wrote a song called Born This Way. And her song Born This Way is about accepting people who are different, who have a gender difference or sexual orientation difference, or they look different. And just saying people are just born this way. You accept them for who they are. And they rewrote her song to be Snakes Are Born This Way. So the last video I'll show you is a shortened version of the students' music video, Snakes Are Born This Way, which is available on YouTube if you like it. So let's start.
Thank you so much,
video
Ron.
2.
Yes.
Let's run the video.
It doesn't matter if you're scared of them or not. Just open up your heart, because snakes were just born this way.
Our teachers told us in second grade we'd be herpetologists. If you don't know, that means we study snakes from everywhere around the world. There's nothing wrong with having scaly skin. We say snakes are all made perfectly
That was great.
That was actually a really high pitch note.
That was great indeed.
Oh, that was wonderful. We loved how they were actually having fun. And
Thank
the
you.
singing. And all those words.
Thank you.
Snakes are born
Thank
this
you
way.
all for letting me share my passions with you
Thank
today.
you so much, Ron, for joining us at the SOT. We are just hoping to have you next time in person in Pakistan.
That would be much nicer.
Inshallah.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a great conference.
Thank you
so
very
much.
much for your time. And
Yes.
I think our audience are equally
Yes.
happy to attend the session. Thank you once again.
So
and
any closing words, Ron, and then we can perhaps end the live session? Yes, please.
The closing words I would have would say, we can't teach like this every day of every year. We can't always have something exciting and powerful happening for kids. We can't always have kids contribute.
Very true.
But over the course of the year, if students can just do one or two things that they're so proud of and that they contribute in some way beyond the classroom, it changes who they are.
It does.
It
Thank you
does.
so much. Thank you so much, Ron, for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
all.
much. Thank you.
Thank
And
you so
thank
much,
you
audience,
everyone for being here.
for being here. Thank you so much. Yes, any closing remarks, Sadia?
Yes, we would like to thank Mr. Ron Berger, Miss Raum, Miss Hina for taking out time from their busy schedule for this fruitful session. We hope that learning from the same will go a long way.